welcome back to the Character Corner. This is Chris and Dpalm here, and we're here with our second Character Corner in October. We are here because next week Doctor Strange comes out in theaters, Marvel Studios, and we are doing our quick Character Corner on Doctor Strange to kind of go over his history and background here. I know we talked about it a little bit before, and we've done this before, I think. He's talking about, you know, Doctor Strange kind of really being a weird kind of character to get into. And personally, I think most of his best stuff is probably not in his own books. We'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
We'll get into that a little bit later. But the first thing I want to do is, because, you know, and this is going to happen, if you don't want to hear this shit, don't listen to our Doctor Strange review. Yeah. I'm going to always mention the fact that, you know, the whole issue and addressing the issue of white savior, whitewashing, and things like that. You can't. I don't see how you can review a movie or talk about Doctor Strange and not mention that kind of stuff. You kind of have to. The first thing I want to do is I won't spend too much time on what's going on in the movie. Again, you listen to our review. We'll talk about it there. But one of the things I've seen, and I kind of wanted to, this is one of the only times I'll push back against this. I've seen a lot of references about Doctor Strange originally being Asian.
Thank you.
And here's the thing, guys. I've tried to go and do my research. I went and look at those. His first appearance of Strange Tales, number 110. A lot of these things, he's drawn, and I think Ditko was the one who drew him, giving him a strange look that you might interpret as a stereotypical Asian figure. But after like 2 or 3 issues, that kind of goes away, and you can just tell he's a white guy.
Right.
Like, Dr. Stephen Strange is a white guy. Flat out. He's always been a white guy. He's never been Asian. He's never been called Asian.
Blizzard camouflage white.
Right. Like, this is, you know, he might get that, a really bad tan sometimes, but he's a white guy. And so I just want to, I've seen people sit there and talk about the whitewashing with the film and whitewashing in general with the character and claiming that Marvel changed the character to from Asian to white. Never happened, guys. Like,
factually inaccurate.
It's just factually inaccurate. I think you're confusing the fact that he was drawn. And again, if you look at some of Ditko's earlier drawings, he even drew, and I hate to say this because it's very stereotypical, he drew the slanted eyes on Peter Parker. Like, you can't use that as basis for him. It kind of reminds me of when people say that the Lex Luthor in Justice League Unlimited was black, and I was like, I just never got that.
Read what you want to read, but I didn't see it either.
Yeah, I just didn't see that. So, and I want to throw that out there because I think it's important to throw that out there. Now, having said that, I will say, while he's always been a white guy, he's always been drawn as a white guy, there's nothing that in Doctor Strange, when we go through this stuff, there's nothing in Doctor Stephen Strange's history that means he had to be a white guy. I think you could have made him any race and it would have been fine. They could have, and so I
think that yes, you're right,
mm-hmm.
but to the overwhelming arrogance and privilege.
Oh yeah. I mean,
of Doctor Strange.
Listen. Okay,
if you read, we'll talk about the origins in a second, but even if you read like original tellings and modern retellings, he's a prick.
Oh yeah, listen. While there's nothing to stop him from being like. I would have been okay if they made an Asian American or Asian person Doctor Strange. It would have worked. However,
he can be black, he can be Asian. They're assholes of every race.
Right. But
this specific type of assholery.
Like this specific type of assholery. Like, I really think you need to have white privilege, guys. Like, I'm just saying. Like, they can't say that, but like, it really needs to be a white guy really, for the white privilege. Like,
the white privilege really brings it home.
Like, you know, there's a bit that Bill Burr did about how as a white guy, every time he puts the suit on, he feels the evil inside of him. Like, you just put the suit on, he just feels like a president of shit. Like, that's Stephen Strange early in his career. Like, you just need.
Doctor Strange is a great room, and the white privilege is the rug that just pulls it all together.
Right. And just like I said, I'm not saying that. Like, I'm not going, like, I think even more so than, and we'll eventually do Danny and Iron Fist later on, but I think even more so than that, like, Stephen Strange, like, there's just certain things he does, like you said, even in modern tellings, there's certain things you go, it's like, yeah, a black guy wouldn't do that shit, man. Like, at one point, Dr. Voodoo becomes new Sorcerer Supreme, and I'm just like, yeah, Dr. Voodoo wouldn't have done that shit, man. Like, like Dr. Strange would, because you're just an arrogant, like, just gotta take it all on myself, and I'm that, like, just there's arrogance, but then there's white privilege arrogance, and again, not saying you couldn't done it, and I totally hear what people say, and I think there's definitely a certain aspect when you have a white guy goes to Asian culture and takes Asian culture, and it makes you feel icky, and it should. But I just want to say, I wanted to lead up with saying he's never been anything but a white guy. But arrogance aside, supreme white arrogance or white privilege aside, he could have been any race.
Right.
He could have been, and I think that, I'll talk more about this when I do the review of the movie. I do think that Marvel probably dropped the ball there and not trying to find someone else to do that.
There's that side of it, but it's also like Benedict Cumberbatch isn't exactly like just some geek off the street.
And again,
like, it's not like they went out and got like some replacement level actor. I'm like, they bring in like A-list, like big time heavy hitter actors to play these roles, right?
I don't want to get too much into that, but I see people try to downplay Benedict Cumberbatch sometimes. I'm just like, guys, listen. Again,
it's a huge get for Marvel.
It goes back to the thing about when you're trying to force him to be something, other than ever having been a white guy. It's like, you don't have to exaggerate. Like, I think when you go through things, you can see they're problematic. You can say you can wish that they had gone another direction, but let's not go so far that we downplay what exists. Like, we don't have to
do what we wanted. That makes it wrong. That's not necessarily true.
Let's not say that it should have been a white guy. I mean, it shouldn't have been a white guy. He wasn't originally a white guy. Well, no, he was. Let's not say that Benedict Cumberbatch isn't Benedict fucking Cumberbatch and isn't an amazing actor who fucking kills every role he does. Like, let's slow down a little bit, guys, and we don't have to go that far to also sit there and say that, hey, this is problematic and they could have done something better. So, I want to get that out of the way because I think that it kind of goes back to what we've said before about Marvel and their characters. A lot of their characters started off, and this happened with Luke Cage, a lot of the characters started off with some really problematic things. Mm-hmm. Very, very problematic. And instead of running from that, what you see is Marvel embrace that and try to introduce new ways of addressing and dealing with that. And I think that's important. I think that's an important thing to do. And they do it, and we'll get into this when we start talking about Doctor Strange. I think one of the things they did with Doctor Strange is, I don't know if you want to call it deconstruction of heroes or if it's just they put them in different spots to make them more flawed. And they do it in a way that doesn't involve them rebooting their entire continuity like DC does. And it's weird because I think DC character, like when we just did Justice Society of America, and DC has some really those are some really human characters, right? There are some characters that have some real human traits, and while they're the pinnacle of superheroes, they you can relate to them in some kind of ways. And I feel like sometimes DC doesn't recognize what they have there, and they feel like the way to do this is to kind of reboot their universe. And I don't know, it just, for me, it's easier to draw a line from the beginning of a character in Marvel to where they're at now than it is with DC. And I think that's one of the flaws of DC. You have a lot of good stories and a lot of good things that happen there. You don't have to throw everything out if you want to make a change.
And without this turning into a Dpalm Tries to Fix DC podcast, which I'm sure we've recorded like 3 or 4 of these. Mm-hmm. For DC, the through line always leads back to the symbol. Mm-hmm. No matter what that lets you go a lot of different places with the character, but as long as you get back to the symbol, it's all that matters. With the Marvel characters, because as we talked about before, like the origins of the 2 companies, the character was always the core. Mm-hmm. So Peter Parker always mattered just as much, if not more, than Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. Jay Garrick is barely distinguishable from the Flash. Right. And so I think that difference, that duality, that extra layer of complication, not getting into like who told better stories or what times, or who took more chances with stories at what times, that inherent duality is really what pays off, particularly when talking about someone like Stephen Strange, who Yes. Okay, let's talk about it this way. Before Bruce Wayne becomes Batman, what do you know about Bruce Wayne? He was a kid, and there's a whole bunch of blank space, and then he's Batman. Clark Kent was a kid, whole lot of blank space, then he's Superman. With Stephen Strange, we watch adult Stephen Strange, particularly in the origin, which I'm really excited to see how they do in the movie because I think Cumberbatch can act his ass off and really deliver in the scene. But when he realizes that his hands that have brought him so much pride and joy and fame and power are useless, he literally is so desperate to recapture. Like, he doesn't get his powers out of a need to do good. He gets his powers out of, I was a god, and I've lost it, and I'll do anything to recapture that feeling.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think the origin is in his first appearance in 110. I can't remember exactly. I'll find the exact issue that has his origin in there. But the origin is always the same with Stephen Strange. He's always very gifted, one of the most gifted doctors there is, surgeons there is. But he's arrogant. He's arrogant, and he's always going. He's arrogant, and he also gets to the point where he's, focusing mainly on people that can pay him. If you're not the rich and famous, you can't afford Doctor Strange. He's not going to save you. There's another one in there, and I can't remember what. I can't remember if the new. I can't remember. I don't think it's the newer issues in that Jason Aaron is writing. Where there's one where there's a. Actually, I think it is. It's the one where he's with. He goes in there, and there's a bunch of students in there. He's talking, and the doctor who's there is telling. Oh no, it's not. It's New Avengers Annual 2, and I'll get into that later on. But the way they tell his and show his arrogance of thinking that he's basically, like you said, he's a god who thinks he's a man who thinks he's a god who can fix and save anything. He can cure cancer. He can do this. He can do that. He thinks he can do anything if you just put your hands out. He doesn't accept losing.
Right, 100%.
And the reason why I've really enjoyed this character and been enjoying what I've been reading is what you find is, so he goes out, he finds the Ancient One. The Ancient One is going to teach him how to find other ways to help people. Right. And it's seen as a gift. But from reading all this stuff now, and when you go through the Bendis run and when you got with Jason Aaron, things like that, what I found is it's not that Stephen Strange was going to be the best student, but he was always going to be the one that he was so arrogant that he would take on all this stuff. Even dark magic, he would do all this stuff, and he just wouldn't go too far. Like, he would be able to punish, and like it's almost like it wasn't a blessing that the Ancient One gave him. It's more of a curse. It's particularly when you start reading the Jason Aaron stuff and you see the toll it takes on him. Like, it becomes an idea that him becoming the Sorcerer Supreme was a curse. It was basically him being punished for his arrogance, all those other years. Like, you go through these early Doctor Strange runs thinking, oh no, he was happy-go-lucky stuff. But then you start getting into the Bendis stuff and you're just like, this is not good. Like, you're taking a toll on your body and you're kind of slipping away from this. Like, this is not as happy-go-lucky as I thought it was, So, that's kind of what I took from that. So.
Yeah. And it's so funny because the arrogance in him and this is my reading of it, I'm probably reading too much into it, but the Ancient One gave him this power knowing that he'd seen what arrogance had led to in the past. Mm-hmm. It's interesting because if you, even in the first readings, I think it's a single car drunk driving accident.
I can't remember if he was drunk or not, but yeah, definitely a single car accident. It's all of him.
It was a mixture. It's just arrogance and hubris. Mm-hmm. And the idea that he would hold back knowing what this could cost him really, and like you said, I think that some of the best stuff's been done in recent years because it challenged that premise. Because let's just do this really quickly. I have a meta problem with Stephen Strange as a character because for me, particularly reading some of the 70s, 80s comics, the more not horror comics, but the mystical side of the Marvel Universe, there's no reason that it feels like reading the worst of Superman, where nothing's a threat because I've seen him overcome so much. Mm-hmm. And I know that we're going to talk about some of the standout stories, but I think that for me it was Bendis' treatment and acceptance and reconciliation of the arrogance that really made the character resonate for me.
No, I think you're right. I definitely
like a lot of the appeal of the early Strange stuff is the high concept, kick ass, like kind of metal, like visual, like the idea of Dormammu is amazing and cool, and he's a great visual, but like at a certain point it becomes you're reading a book about someone reading nonsense words to each other.
Right, and they don't really. There's not a lot like I remember reading I think the first one is called like the Dread Dormammu, that's like the arc lead as, and let me see if I can find out exactly. I haven't written down where the art. Again, this stuff is on
the Domain of Dread Dormammu, Strange Tales 126 and 127.
Right, and this is after he defeats him. He gets the Cloak of Levitation. He gets the Eye of Agamotto. These. Again, you need to. I don't say you want to need them. You kind of need. You actually do. You kind of need to read them to kind of get a base of where you're going on and your footing on them.
Right.
But like you said, like when you read these 26 issues, at one point he faces it off against Dormammu, and then like at some point Dormammu just leaves, and he's like, and Steve Strange is standing there like, I gotta do better next time. You're just like, wait, what the fuck happened here? Like there doesn't feel to be the weight on what's really going on here, because you're dealing. You gotta understand, you're dealing with the unknown. You're dealing with, no pun intended, the strange. You're dealing with literally going to hell and these demons from hell and stopping these things. Like, it just doesn't seem to have any real weight, right?
Right.
It doesn't take a toll on this, and that's where I think the later on issues come in. You need the earlier issues because it does kind of give you the background on some of these characters. Like Dormammu is obviously one of the big characters that repeatedly comes up, and repeated enemies that comes up with Doctor Strange. There's Nightmare, also another repeated enemy of Doctor Strange, and then obviously Mordo, which I think his first appearance is 111. That's right after Doctor Strange, who is another student of the Ancient One, who then leads to going and killing the Ancient One, and stuff like that. One of the things I think that you can do if you want to kind of get some of this background on some of these characters and get the background of Stephen Strange, you can read some of the earlier stuff. Like there's one that I found on Marvel Unlimited, just called Strange. It was written by Sarah Barnes. That kind of goes over the origin of Doctor Strange. I think it's only like 4 issues. I want to say. Let me see. I'm sorry, no, it's 6 issues. So it's 6 issues, and it takes you from his origin to him to him getting injured. And this one, instead of getting a car crash, it's a ski accident. He's skiing at night. Again, arrogance to ski, at night, and he fucks himself up. And then he meets the Ancient One, and well, actually, they're like the Ancient One's looking for him, but he's not ready. Like, it's a whole story there. They give a background on Stephen Strange working in, I believe, is in Tibet, as basically one of those Doctors Without Borders type deals, and he makes a promise to one of the kids there. Makes a promise to a kid named Wong. And he's like, "Oh, I'll come back. I promise to come back. I'll be there." And like, I can't remember who was the person that ran the thing. Is like, "You're not gonna come back." Like, everybody's like, "I've been here for so long." Doctor's like, "You always come out here. You promise to come out here." And then what you get is like year after year, you get Strange. Not like they'll show like a year later, 3 years later, still hasn't gone back, right? And he's getting more and more arrogant, and you're seeing that he does have some kind of, he doesn't know at the time, he does have some kind of connection to the magical realm, but he doesn't know it. It's an interesting spin, and I don't think it's the more canon version of his origin, but I like it because it kind of it eliminates, it makes Wong another Doctor. First of all, he grows up to be another Doctor, and while he does go to be a trusted friend and helper of Doctor Strange, it eliminates that manservant aspect of it, which again, early Doctor Strange is very problematic. I just put it that way, very, very problematic. But it eliminates that, and it kind of gives you more of a background on literally the arrogance of Doctor Strange, and I think that's an important. That to me is the thing that always stands out. is you can nail the arrogance of Strange, but you have to tweak that origin because, again, that early writing just had so much. It was very, very heavy into Asian culture, and we just know how much it has been siphoned off of Asian culture to use against Strange through a white guy, and then giving him a manservant Asian guy. It's just, it's a problem.
It's problematic, like definition
right.
problematic.
It's a definition of problematic. But I think Marvel goes out of its way to not hide from that, but try to address. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it does. But I think that's an important piece here with Strange. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else before we get into some of the newer stuff that was. I mean, there's like 3 volumes of it. There's the 2 first. There's volume 1 of Doctor Strange. I think volume 2 might be Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme. Let's see. There was, the one that I really started that I thought was really good, and we never covered this when we did Doctor Doom. Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom Triumph and Torment. Yeah,
we talked about. I was about to bring that up too.
Yeah, so that to me is, if you want to start like some earlier stuff with Doctor Strange, I think that's a good one to start with. I think that was a good. It's good for not just Doctor Strange, but it's also good for Doctor Doom, because this is the one where we talked about in Doctor Doom. You remember about him going to fight Mephisto for the soul of his mother,
right?
And in this one, you kind of, and this comes into play later on. You get the early interactions of Strange and Doctor Doom.
It really sets up and pays off the Hickman stuff.
Oh, it really does.
And I hadn't really thought about it in that sense until we were reading this for this character corner. Like, that's my thing about Strange, is I really like him as a foil to other characters.
Yeah.
As a standalone character, he's always left me lukewarm. I've heard great things about the Aaron book. I started it for this character corner, did not finish it. You've told me it's good. I need to probably spend more time with it. But that's kind of where I've always been with this character, which is why I'm excited about the early reviews on the movie, which, by the way, Marvel, once again, no embargo, you cocky sons of bitches.
Right. Yeah, the Strange, and basically what happens is the Ancient One pulls a call out to all those, all the sorcerers in the world to come out, and he's going to train. They're trying to. The first step of this is the Ancient One puts a call out to. I don't even know. It wasn't the Ancient One. It was the blind. Oh, fuck, not the blind. I can't remember what it was, but it was another individual. It's called. They're going to try to choose the Sorcerer Supreme, and I think it's the Vicente, or I can't remember, the Agamonto, or it's one of the spiritual beings that's tied to Doctor Strange eventually later on. But he puts a call out to find out who the new Sorcerer Supreme is, right? So everyone shows up, but so does Doctor Doom. Everybody's kind of like, wait a minute, Doom? Like, and what you see is Doom is, and I think we even did this when I did our Doctor Doom character corner. Doom becomes infinitely more interesting when you don't forget the fact that he's not just a tech person, but he's also a sorcerer. When you add that aspect to Doctor Doom, it becomes very, very intriguing. And it's one of the reasons why if you jump to when they relaunched Invincible Iron Man and Doom shows up, he doesn't have his armor, but he's all into his magic. It becomes very, very intriguing. And so basically what you have here is you have a Doom who isn't to the same level as any of these other sorcerers. And he does still use his tech, but he basically have him using and mimicking some of Doctor Strange's movements to learn how to do. Like, the thing about Doom is he's always a learner. You show him something once, he's going to be able to repeat it. And you basically have Doom learning some of these moves and how to be a better sorcerer from Doctor Strange. So in the end, it's left to Strange and Doom, and Strange ends up doing what needs to be done to become Sorcerer Supreme. Because Doom was left standing, though, he's allowed, I can't remember what they call it, but he's allowed to ask the Sorcerer Supreme for one favor. And Strange is just like, no, this guy's a dictator. You cannot do this. Like, everyone was already tripping on the fact that, wait, you're going to even allow him to even try to do this? Like, he's Dr. fucking Doom. You can't do this. So, but he has to. And, Doom is like, you're going to help me rescue the soul of my mother. And he even hits him with some, I mean, if you don't do it, I mean, if you want to condemn the soul of an innocent woman to burn in hell forever, you can do that. So Strange agrees. And so what you have is Doctor Strange helping and teaching Doctor Doom more about sorcery so they can go into hell and rescue the soul of his mother. And it is a very, I think it's a very, very good story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that story because you get not only like, it's a great Doom story.
Oh, it's a great Doom story.
But it's also a great Doctor Strange story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when we talk about some of the more interesting things that have been done with him recently, it really, like I said, it didn't click for me until like this week when I read this book again.
Oh, yeah. No, the tie-ins with...
Also, Mike Mignola of Hellboy fame doing, like, I think it's like his third or fourth mainstream art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, if you just want to read, if you're going to read the Hickman stuff on Strange and the Secret Wars, read this book first. Because I think it really ties into, because I had never read it before, so this is my first time reading it. So I'd always been on some, why would Strange ever really agree to do some of the things with Doom? But then when you read this book, you're going, oh, they kind of got a newfound respect for each other from this.
Right.
You know? And it's like Strange saw that there's more to Doom than what anybody else sees, because he literally was going to hell to rescue the soul of his mother. And then in the end, tricks Mephisto into doing it. You know? Like, this is a dangerous guy, but at the same time, you're like, gotta keep an eye on this guy. Like, there's
right.
more to him than we thought, and we gotta do that. So, there's that. Another thing, as you can read, that involves Doctor Strange, the Infinity Gauntlet basic trilogy. I didn't go back and reread it some, but I know he's in there. I didn't read some of the tie-ins for his Infinity Gauntlet tie-ins that were in his book, but I've been told that some people say those are good things to give you insight into Doom. Into Strange. I can't really, like I said, I've read Infinity Gauntlet a while ago, but I never read the tie-ins for that.
Yeah. I like that because, again, it's Strange. He's tough because you got to put people, if you surround the people who are around his power level, the story gets a little wonky and like hard to comprehend and like hard to relate to. But it's when the characters, I think, especially the earlier books, is most relatable. Right. Because it's harder to see him interact with Iron Man and Captain America when you're like, oh, he literally knows more than them and is way more powerful than all of them. Mm-hmm. But then when you put him on a stage like the Eternity Search, excuse me, like that, he fits more, but it's harder to relate to. I don't know. Doctor Strange has always been a weird read for me.
Yeah, yeah, it is a weird read when you when you put him just as an Avenger. But again, I'm saving up for when he really, to me, when I think there's a light bulb went off when people started realizing how you can do it and make sense.
No, let's do this right now because I think a lot of people bag on this curator, but let's give credit where it's due. Brian Michael Bendis.
Yeah, I mean, we
figured
always
out how to make him work.
Look, you'll always hear us talk about certain creators all the time. You know, with DC, we talk a lot of Johns. When you talk Marvel, and I think when you're talking about, especially the changes that have happened in the last few years with Marvel, Bendis, you got to give Bendis credit. I mean, even if it didn't work, like
let's say his writing style is not your cup of tea. You don't go for the big deconstructionism of comics. That's fine. You've got to tip your cap at the amount of influence and impact he's had on not just Marvel but the industry. Right. Miles Morales exists because he was the brainchild of Brian Michael Bendis, and Miles Morales is still a consistently written and understood character because of his tight stewardship over Miles' appearances.
Mm-hmm. I get it. I get why people feel some kind of way. But, like, you got to look at the bigger picture and what goes on. And I think with Stephen Strange, he becomes an infinitely more interesting character when you stop trying. Because I think before Bendis, the problem with Doctor Strange was they went from this arrogant, white privileged, I can do anything to save the world type character to now the only difference between him being Sorcerer Supreme and that was he's doing it for good. And there's literally nothing in between. Like you're like, okay, but then you just made all you basically did. You said Superman. You basically made him an all powerful being, and that's it. Like there's nothing in there. So what Bendis does is he starts making it so that you're put Stephen Strange in situations where he has to make morally either dark or gray decisions. And when you do that, he becomes an infinitely more interesting character.
Correct.
Because it makes sense. If you make him a god, which is in a way you kind of do this sometimes with his power structure, you have to find a way to make it relatable. And if you do it and say, "Hey, listen, you make a person with all this power, and they have to make a bad choice," and that starts when I guess you can start with the Illuminati comics.
Oh man,
like
I think that's really where Bendis got his first hands on Strange, right?
Right, and we talk about this Illuminati stuff, but it starts and really goes down with the decision to send Hulk into space. And while it seems like, and again, like I've heard people say, "Oh, well, they shouldn't have done that. It was a terrible idea." It's like, yeah, but when you think about what they had to face,
you're like, was it?
Right. I mean, it's like, to me, there is no good answer on that, And here you have Stephen Strange here, and the Illuminati, which is Strange, Reed, Namor, Black Bolt, Tony Stark, and Charles Xavier. Because T'Challa was like, "You guys are idiots."
This is such a bad idea. This will end poorly.
This will end poorly, and it does. But what you end up getting is you get them going through and doing all these really morally just wrong things. But they were tough decisions. It's basically they're making decisions that somebody has to make, but nobody wants to make.
All right, so let's talk about the Illuminati series for a second. Mm-hmm. It opens with the Kree Skrull War. Mm-hmm. It opens with Strange and them very much in the thrall of the Skrulls, and him using his powers in a way, an illusion of Galactus. It was so, like you said, like they made a lot of questionable decisions. That was the first time I was like, well, that was probably not the best idea. Mm-hmm. And then you get them fighting and searching for the Infinity Stones.
Right.
And like each turn you watch them go a little bit further. Mm-hmm. Like in the Infinity Stones when Reed puts on the fucking gauntlet.
Yeah.
He really shouldn't have.
Shouldn't have. And I love the fact that that comic ends with people thinking that Reed was strong enough to not use it. And I'm like, I don't think that's what happened.
Yeah.
That's not what, that's not, Like, did they ever explain that?
Not really. I got the book in front of me right now.
I've always kind of thought that Strange might have had something to do with that, too.
Well, I think that you see, like, the very real fear, of all of them telling him the entire time, take the gauntlet off. Mm-hmm. Take it off. Take off the glove. Mm-hmm. And then Uatu appears, and you get what Reed said, at least, and I trust Reed on this one, where he said I was trying to will the gauntlet to cease to exist.
Yeah, okay.
But the last frame of that entire issue, you're right, is Charles looking at Reed.
Oh, yeah, maybe it might have been Charles. Who
convinced Charles staring at Reed.
Yeah. No, you didn't. Yeah. Something at the end of that one was like, I don't really trust Reed on that one either. But then they make the decision of not destroying them or hiding them. They each take a stone.
Yes.
Which, again.
Also problematic.
Yeah, not a good idea. Which comes back later on the Hickman stuff, like I said. This all ties together. But, yeah, I mean, it's just not a good idea. Like, there are repeated not good ideas here, and Stephen Strange is in the middle of it all. Mm-hmm. He's right there making these bad decisions, and you see him constantly going too far. I guess the next one would be, would it be New Avengers, or would it be the World World War Hulk stuff. It all kind of goes together.
Kind of goes together. The timeline gets a little wonky there.
Yeah.
Let's go Hulk first.
Mm-hmm.
Yo.
Yeah. So Hulk comes back, thinks that the Illuminati killed his wife and destroyed his people. Mm-hmm. And he's also kind of a little pissed that they sent him off into space.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. What you get for most part is you get him taking apart everybody else. Strange is trying to find different ways of using and calming him down, and he's trying to find a way into Hulk's mind to get to Banner. And at one point, it seems like it works. He's calming him down. He thinks it's working. It does not work. And what ends up happening is you get... I'm not sure if this is the first time he does it, but Strange later on basically calls upon the dark arts to confront the Hulk.
Yeah, the darkest of arts.
The darkest. And
it cracks the door on the beginning of the imperfection of Stephen Strange.
Exactly.
Which makes him infinitely more interesting.
Right. You know, he basically goes about this, and it's to the point that everybody else is like, you might have gone too far. Like, this is... It shows you what he's been holding back and what he's not willing to do. And he goes off, and what kind of distracts him is at one point he's fighting the Hulk, and a building falls down, and the Hulk protects the people. Yeah. And all of a sudden, that's when it hits Stephen Strange. Oh my God, I might have just killed some innocent people in doing this, right? And it is, like you said, that's the first crack. It's the first crack. It's the first time you really see him using the dark arts, and it kind of scares you. What happens is it scares everyone. And that's the thing that, again, makes it infinitely makes Stephen Strange a more interesting character, because once he starts dabbling in these dark arts, you start going, this character, it's weird, because it makes you realize that while before Brian Bendis, you were like, oh wow, they made this character so powerful, he can literally do anything. But then when you see what he wasn't doing, and now you see what
this is the stuff I've been consciously not doing.
Right. You're like, wait a minute, he's more like, I'd actually argue that Bendis made him actually more powerful than he ever was. But then at the same time, because he made him flawed, those flaws have action. There's a thing, and again, I really think the Jason Aaron book has been really, really great. It's one of the probably the solo Stephen Strange books.
It's weird where he's using mystical tools.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I read the first 2 issues of that.
Oh no, he doesn't really. I mean, he uses them, but basically what they're showing in this is, and at one point what happened, they show you is that when he used the dark arts, and they literally at one point they're having it so that all the magic is being destroyed in several dimensions. There's a new enemy that comes in and destroying. So every now and then he'll use a tool because his magic just isn't working because it's not there. And they're tying his magic to the books and things like that. There's at one point where
isn't he like a mystic chainsaw or something?
No, I don't.
I'm missing a different book, I think.
Yeah, no, it should be the 2015 Doctor Strange book. Okay. So I don't think he used a chainsaw. I don't think so. Maybe I didn't get that far. But there's at one point where he's talking about they flash back to a conversation he had with the Ancient One training him, and the Ancient One tells him to hit him as hard as he can. And this is when he still had his hands fucked up. So he does. He hurts himself, and he's like, "Why are you teaching me how to punch when I'm here to learn how to be a sorcerer?" He's like, "So when you punched me, it had a reaction to your hand, right? It hurt you, right?" He's like, "Yeah, but I want to be a sorcerer. I'm going to use magic. It's not going to do this." It's like, no. Everything has a cost. And I think that when you start with Bendis, you start seeing that every time, and I think that's why I really like Jason Aaron's book, every time he does some of this stuff, it has a cost. It's not done for free. It is not just, hey, he uses a magical spell, everything's good. Like, there's times you see this where he's literally taking on the evil into himself. Like, to jump ahead, I want to... We'll go back to some of this other Bendis stuff, but this was during the Hickman run. There was New Avengers number 2, New Avengers Annual number 2, and what I really love about this is, so Stephen Strange had been called back to I don't think it was where the Ancient One was from, but it's somewhere else. And there was this young girl who had been their promising student. She was a princess or something like that, and she had been attacked by this demonic parasite. And they were basically telling Stephen Strange, "Hey, we need your help to kind of get this going." And they run this book in parallel to they run that story in parallel to something going on in Stephen Strange's past, where he's talking to another doctor, and the doctor's like, "Hey, listen, you promise these students that you can do anything, that they don't have to worry about, they don't have to make a choice between saving a patient and not saving a patient. Like you're telling them that the only difference is they're not working hard enough that they don't do it." So she brings him to this hospital and is like, "Hey, listen, there's this guy here. I've been working with him. The little kid calls her like auntie, whatever. And, he's got terminal cancer. He's going to die." So Stephen Strange looks at him and is like, no, he steals the guy's chart. "I'm going to save this guy." He's like, "We're going to get an experimental treatment. We're going to do this." Tells the kid, "I'm going to save him." Right? Ends up happening. He doesn't. Guy dies. And, the kid is mad. The woman tells him, "You're so arrogant. You thought you could even do this." And it's paralleling with the story of Stephen Strange having to make the decision of if he stops the parasite, he could kill the girl. If he doesn't do that, it could destroy the entire world. So he has to make a choice. So, and it shows you that the arrogance of Stephen Strange hasn't changed. It's just the matter of what he's willing to give up to do it. Basically, what he does is he offers himself as a vessel for this demonic parasite versus the girl. So Demon's like, "All right, cool, I'll take it in." Demon goes into him and he traps the demon inside. He's like, "I have enough magical defenses that the demons are going to be trapped in me forever. They're going to get him." So he takes in, but the people that he was there to help, his oldest friends, they basically tell him he's banned from coming there ever again.
Right.
Because it's like you gave up. I mean, you're using dark magic. You literally took on instead of destroying the demon, you took it into yourself. And it's because Stephen Strange couldn't give up killing that girl too. So you see him, the toll it takes on him of him literally taking on evil into himself. And they play on that more in Jason Aaron's book. And it's like you said, it's what makes him an infinitely more interesting character, because you start seeing him do this through the Bendis run. And it's very fascinating.
I was looking at New Avengers. I think it was a different annual too. It was during, like you said, the Bendis run, but it's where they're fighting the Hoods guys, and he uses the dark magic to get them out.
Yes, that's the other one that.
Well, there's another one after this too on Hickman's run where he literally sells his soul.
Oh, we'll do that. Well, yeah, we'll get to the Hickman run stuff, because that one's I have played. Yeah,
it's really dark, really fast.
Right,
but he uses this power to free them, and the team says, "What was that?" He says, "Our struggles of late. I have had to call upon darker forces that I would normally use. Forces I thought that I control, but I can't. It was arrogance. The same arrogance that led me down the path I'm on in the first place. Mm-hmm. My hands are useless again, and I tried to disguise it. All the years now I've learned nothing. I've had no time to deal with what I've done, and the forces are overpowering me. I wanted so much to help you, my friends. I wanted so much to help my old friend Bruce Banner, but I failed. And I have failed in my task as Sorcerer Supreme of this dimension. I don't think I can help you anymore. I need to atone for what I've done. I need to learn all that I've lost and put the black magics that I had no business using in the first place. I can't help you anymore. You have to leave here. We all do. I'm sorry, my friends." And then he vanishes.
Yeah, this is where he gives up being Sorcerer Supreme. I mean, we talked about the new Avenger runs with Bendis, and I think we did the same thing when we talked about this with Luke Cage. Mm-hmm. Like that's to me, there's three characters stand out, and at some point we're going to do character corners and go through these new Avenger runs. We did the Hickman stuff, but I think the Bendis run stuff is just as important. I think there's three characters. It's a Luke Cage story in a little bit. I think it's also a very, very important Doctor Strange story in here.
Agreed.
It's very heavily, like, it ends, I think the volume 2 ends with him becoming the Sorcerer Supreme again. We'll get into that. And then I think it's probably also, I haven't read too much into it, but it's probably also a Hawkeye story.
That's what I said. Yeah. Hawkeye's the third. Clint's the third one.
Yeah, so it's like, it's Luke Cage, Doctor Strange, and a Hawkeye story. Like, that's what the Bendis run on New Avengers is. And that's another reason why you gotta look at Bendis as being so important. It takes characters you normally wouldn't have thought of as being front runners on New Avengers. I mean, remember, this is a New Avengers team that has Wolverine on it, but he's not in the top 3.
He's a fighter and he's comic relief. He's like, how are you in all these teams?
Yeah, well,
I'm Canadian. It's my real superpower.
Yeah, you got Logan and you got Peter Parker on this New Avengers team, but they are more secondary characters to Luke Cage, Doctor Strange, and Clint Barton. I mean, I think that's a very important thing to do for these 2 volumes, and you see this throughout this whole entire stuff. So, yeah, I mean, you get the Hood, which becomes another very important character. The Hood and Dormammu again. Like, Dormammu was always popping up in all of this stuff. Like, usually, I would say 90% of the time when something's going on with Doctor Strange, it's either Dormammu or Nightmare. One of those 2 pops up, and it's a fucking prop. But you have Strange basically saying, and again, while you make the character flawed, you also show why he was important, and basically saying, listen, I've gone too far. And I think it's a self-realization that I would even say some of the other Illuminati don't even have. You know, I've gone too far. I have to give it up. And it's not that the source, and I didn't realize it until I reread this stuff, it's not that he lost being Sorcerer Supreme. He gave it up. And he gives it up willingly, saying, I am not worthy of this. Because I've basically become, he recognizes I'm doing the same arrogant shit I did that got me into this place to begin with. So I can't, even though it's doing it for a good cause, the end result is still the same.
Right.
You know, I'm calling on dark forces to do this, and I got to do this. So what you get is, I want to say, I can't remember. I'll find out what issues it is and put them down there. Wait, no, I have it. Yeah, so New Avengers Annual 2, I think this is from volume, I want to say this is volume I think it's volume 1.
Volume 1, yeah.
It's volume 1. That's the one where he gives up being Sorcerer Supreme. And it's interesting to me that both the annual, this is annual number 2, and the other one is during Hickman runs annual number 2, where you have these important Doctor Strange stories. I don't know if they did it on purpose, but we'll see.
Right.
So 51 in this run, issues 51 to 54 is basically Steven trying to find out who the new Sorcerer Supreme will be.
Right.
And he's using the Agamotto, who basically said that there needs to be a Sorcerer Supreme because there's some new threats coming, and this dimension cannot go on without having a Sorcerer Supreme. So you have it going to different characters. You have Wiccan from the Young Avengers. We talked about that before. What did we talk about? When did we talk about we talked about Young Avengers, I think, in our first character corner. We did Ant-Man, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Wiccan, there was Damon. What was it? Is he Hellstrom? Hellstrom. Yeah. And it's going around trying to find the Strange. There's a moment where, and again, it goes to showing you that while Strange doesn't think he's changed or that he's reverting back to his old self, you can tell that it's different this time. There's a moment when he's almost killed by the Hood, who's been, has Dormammu in him, and he ends up making it back to the New Avenger hideout. And he's like, "Hey, listen, I gotta go do this. I gotta go find who the new the new Sorcerer Supreme is. I can't ask you guys to come with me because you guys are my friend. You're gonna help." And the New Avenger are like, "Listen, at some point, you're always doing all this stuff to help us. Let us help you."
Right.
And while it's in some ways his arrogance never went away, there's a selflessness that Strange has in him now that it kind of blurs the line between arrogance and not. And you see that in this run where he's like, "I can't ask you guys to do this for me." And they're like, "Oh, no, we're coming."
I mean, the beginning of that issue that you're talking about, when he faces off with the Hood, he says, "The demon inside." Like, it's very, if you didn't know who it's coming from, it would feel condescending. Mm-hmm. Whoever's guiding you to me knows your bullets never touch me, even bullets with a splash of demon fire. Mm-hmm. I may not be Sorcerer Supreme anymore, but I still know how to defend myself. Right. And he just keeps telling him, "No, like, stop it. If you want my help, my mentoring, I can help you. Mm-hmm. The thing inside you, whoever he is, knows it's true. He's asking you to possess a power that would destroy you. You're being set up." Like, it's very much like, I know what you're going through. Right. It's like talking to someone through a drug overdose. Like, "Hey, you've had too much acid. Yeah. It's fine. You're in a safe place. You got to trust me." Like it feels like that, and it becomes like from Sorcerer Supreme, almost like Sorcerer Therapist. Like he's not Sorcerer Supreme anymore, but like he's really like Parker Robbins is a detestable human being who's willingly affiliated himself with a demon, but the entire time Doctor Strange is like, I know you're trying to kill me, but you can't.
Right.
Now what you can do is let me help you. Like it's so condescending. But he's so right.
We need a story. So yelling out, it needs to be Doctor Strange fix my life. That's what it was.
No, it really was. It was like, all right. And my favorite, my favorite Doctor Strange moment, which I don't know if it qualifies or if I just want to talk about this moment in the book. At one point, Luke Cage gets a tracer put on his heart, and Doctor Strange and Hank Pym have to go inside and try to get it off. And when they touch it, like it turns into a bomb, and they've got Norman Osborn and his troops coming down on them, and they're in some house where they're doing the surgery. And when Osborn gets there, they've all teleported out with the bomb, and then it explodes, and someone says, "Whose house is that?" He goes, "It's my house." Like Strange chose that house for a reason, and it's great.
Right. Real quick, I want to go back to that the other new Avengers 2 that I was talking about, and this is when he's come back to being Sorcerer Supreme. Right. And the story I was telling about how he went to save this woman, this young girl, and again, it juxtaposes itself with the woman basically saying to Strange, "Why can't you accept the impossible?" When he just wouldn't let that other man come to peace and die, because he even said it's like that family had gotten peace with that man going to die, and what you do, you came back, you gave them hope, then you took it away again. Why can't you accept the impossible? Here goes Strange, now back in the present time, talking about trying to stop this demon. Nothing is impossible. Everything has a price. The difference between the strong and the weak is simply as who is willing to pay. To give everything they are for even the slightest hope of victory, I have given myself to darkness. I have paid in full. I am the doctor. I will not be denied. And so it comes back to what when he's done all this stuff and he has told the people what he did. So you are unwelcome to return, Strange. Your dark arts brought a foul air here. Your princess has been returned to you. At what cost, Stephen? Taking all that evil into you, what have you become? What was needed? What was necessary? Goodbye, old friend. I've seen things you could not imagine. I have been where demons fear to tread. I have become what the world requires of me. Nothing is impossible, but only for those who know the price. And I have paid dearly. Like, that is just basically kind of sums up where he's going with this stuff and what he's doing. So, anyway, back to this stuff. So, we go through all this stuff to try to find out who the new Sorcerer Supreme is. It turns out, it ends up being Brother Voodoo becomes Dr. Voodoo. And that's who it is. And there you can actually read, it's not bad, the Dr. Voodoo Avenger of the Supernatural.
It's short, but it's good. I wish it got a longer run, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a short little run that gives you more insight into, and honestly, it does two things. Like, it shows you that it gives you a different Sorcerer Supreme, and Dr. Voodoo becoming this, but it also shows you, because I think that up until this point we really hadn't really gotten it. It shows you how much the Sorcerer Supreme has to deal with. Mm-hmm. And it even shows you with him, even shows you with Dr. Voodoo, him having to struggle to maintain everything and do this. And in that case, it's a Doom shows up in that. Doom shows up in that, and it's also Nightmare. So you get some of there. And again, I really enjoyed that. I didn't read Fraction's Defenders. I know that Strange is in there as well. But then we come back to Volume 2 of Bendis' New Avenger run. And in the first 6 issues, you're having Dr. Voodoo ends up sacrificing himself. And I think it's because the Gazo Agamotto or something like that, something happens and is going around possessing different people. So Dr. Voodoo ends up sacrificing himself. Strange still does not become, they end up destroying the Eye of Agamotto. He does not become the new Sorcerer Supreme at that moment. And you're going. What you then get is, what is Brother Voodoo's
Daniel Drum?
Damon Drum. What is that?
No, he's Damien.
Daniel was his brother, the one that was dead. And so, Brother Voodoo sacrifices himself as Sorcerer Supreme to stop what needs to be done. Makes a decision on his own.
Yep.
His brother, who's in astral form, it was Daniel, right?
Yeah.
Daniel blames Doctor Strange.
100%.
He blames Strange. He's like, you You're the one that made my brother Sorcerer Supreme, which is not true. You're the one that the Agamotto chose who it was. Strange had no idea who was going to be it. He gave it up. But he kind of blames Strange for even giving it up, saying, if you had not done this and you left my brother unprepared to do this. It's grief. It's basically what it is. Strange had nothing to do with it. But he promises that he's going to get Strange back for this. And that's when New Avengers Volume 2, 31 through 34 happened. And he comes back, and he does a pretty good job of almost making good on that promise.
Yeah. He's not a liar.
No, he is not. He comes back. His basic goal was to take over as many of what Strange's he first of all, he goes around and kills all the other sorcerers, anybody that could have helped Strange. First of all, then he goes around and he starts taking down the New Avengers one at a time and jumping from body to body and using them against Strange. At one point, it even was like Strange is almost going to be blamed for the murder of Victoria Hand. I mean, it's so much stuff going on here, and it ends up happening that Strange ends up having to, once again, use the dark arts. Let me see if I actually had that one in there. I don't think I did. No, I didn't take it, but he ends up going because Daniel was basically like, you can't defeat me. There's nothing you can do. And then that's when Strange realizes that the reason why he got rid of the other sorcerers is because he got rid of other sorcerers that would have used the dark arts, which are the only thing that would have stopped him. And Strange is like, oh, okay, hold on. Be real quick. I got to make a real quick visit a friend. Comes back and starts using the dark arts against Daniel. And again, it's doing things that it's and the reason why it's a good arc is because the reason why he gave up being Sorcerer Supreme is because he had been willing to do these things.
Right.
So he goes and does them, and it's basically like, hey, listen, I gave up Sorcerer Supreme because I was using this, but guess what? And you're not fighting the Sorcerer Supreme anymore. I'm not Sorcerer Supreme anymore. I can do this shit now. And once he starts doing that, he whoops his ass. It's not a close fight. But at the end of that, it's funny. You have a conversation going on between Damian and what you later find out is the Ancient One. And the Ancient One comes back. And let me see if I actually have that one. Stephen Strange, it is good to see you in person again. The Ancient One. This is my teacher, the man that taught me everything I know. Not everything. You have learned so much since you first came to me. When you were my student, you would never have been able to control the dark arts without succumbing to them. You taught yourself to vanquish a foe who used your friends and weapons against as weapons against you, and you did it without hurting any of them. You protected this realm even though it is no longer your duty. I know that you relinquished your role as Sorcerer Supreme because you thought you did not deserve it anymore. Yet you continue to act as a hero to everyone and to everyone, to anyone and everyone. And you ask for nothing in return. And because of this, I bequeath to you once again the all-seeing Aya Agamotto and basically makes him Sorcerer Supreme again. It's like, yo.
And also, Damian admits that he's not dead.
Oh, yeah. I love that moment.
Son of Satan.
Yeah. It's like, yo, Voodoo couldn't kill me. Come on, man. It's like, I love that moment, too. But, yeah, you basically have, and this is where I come back to, like, it's kind of a curse. It's like, yeah, strange, like, you're the only one who can do this, and you're going to take all this evil, and then what you see is this continues on. That he has to strike a balance between using the dark arts and being Sorcerer Supreme and doing this. And it leads to some really dark moments for Strange.
Yeah.
And then I guess it's time to get into New Avengers, right?
Yeah.
Why the pause, man?
Because I just want. You got me stuck on issue 34 now. And I was reading him selling back the mansion to Tony. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Selling the mansion to him for $5. But wait, didn't I sell it to you for $1? Yeah, I made a profit.
Turn a profit. Thought you'd like it,
right? He's like, I kind of do.
We're going to talk about all of New Avengers. There's one thing I want to talk about first. Issue 23, page 10. Thank you, Wong. That will be all, of course. And Wong, yes, Doctor. I have something yes. Am I a good man? Silent panel. No. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, that's the New Avengers stuff, right? The all New Avengers
stuff?
Oh,
yeah, that's issue 23.
Yeah, that's Hickman stuff, yeah.
Right near the end.
Yeah. Because he's not. He can't be. He's order to do
anymore.
Huh?
He's not a good man anymore.
Well, I'd argue that was he he ever be once he became Sorcerer Supreme?
Right.
I mean, I just don't think you can. I don't think there's a way that you can do and deal with all the things he could and still be considered a quote unquote good man, because it's just there's too much to do. Right. There's too much at stake, you know? So yeah, I mean, I pulled out some of the new Avengers issues that stood out to me. The one you just read was what, 23?
23, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was 14, 20, and 21. There's 27 where he becomes the head of the Black Priest, and 33 when he eventually joins with Doom and stuff like that. But it's just like you slowly start seeing, again, he's with the Illuminati, but you start seeing him slowly just sacrificing more and more to do what's necessary. Like, I think it's either...
So are you selling your soul, Steven? If I am to be damned, let it be with all the resources at the disposal of a Sorcerer Supreme. How much of your soul do you sell this day? All of it.
Mm-hmm.
God damn, dude.
And what I love is they were like, wait, you don't have all of your soul to sell. You've already done
right. You've been found wanting.
Yeah, you've already done that. you've already sold, like, and that's when you start realizing, oh my God, like he's right. What else have you done? You know? But he still gets the power. And you see it, I think, what is it? Is that 21?
Let's see.
Is it 21 where they're basically fighting the not Justice League, the what's the team? Oh God damn.
I know what you're talking about.
Why do I always forget the team name of them? Squadron Supreme, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where you're basically fighting them, and you know, they're basically whipping the new Avengers' asses. I mean, some of them are getting in stalemates, but for the most part, it's not happening. And even I can't remember who it is, but he's facing off against Strange, and that's when Strange basically hits him with this. He's like, "Do you know these words, charlatan? Of course you don't. You don't even have the gift, do you? I would wager you spent most of your life acquiring your items of power. At best, you're a curator. But I think we both know you're just a thief. Would you like to see real power, child? Would you like to see what the art really costs?" And then you see Strange has, yeah. You start seeing that every now and then there's that. It's like that moment when Logan is reminded why
Scott's in charge.
You start realizing why he is the Sorcerer Supreme. And
you said Sorcerer Supreme. Oh, yeah. Okay,
he's
all right.
Fully given into the dark arts.
Yeah.
In order to pull this off, and he basically takes out the entire squadron. I mean, this is at one point where I think who was it, that Sentry or something had beat the Hulk. You know, had hit the Hulk so hard, Bruce Banner came out like he left his group, and Stephen Strange takes them all out.
Well, let's talk about the beginning of this, because the whole thing is, let's go to the meta story, because the whole story is basically them fighting against the extinction of the universe.
Yes.
And that there was a group of people that they knew who was out working some way towards that end, known as the Black Priests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you eventually learn that they're working at the behest of Stephen Strange.
That he is the head of the Black Priests. Which I thought was one of those holy shit moment at 27, yo.
Oh, dude. Oh, no. 20. I was like, wait. I was like, I have to read the whole series now, don't I? Damn it.
Because at some point, Strange just leaves. He goes away, and people can't find out where Stephen Strange is. He's went somewhere and went to do something. Nobody knows what he's doing. Well, that's what it is. He's gone out to become the head of the Black Priest, which is one of the orders that they're going out. This is where the story becomes so fucking crazy. I know it sounds, but at one point, Stephen Strange and them are up against the Black Priest. But if the Black Priests are the ones that Stephen Strange is, it's an out there story. All right?
Yeah.
Just know it's out there, but it's important. And it's so fucking good. And it makes sense.
How? As with all things, with practice and experience, which is another word for expertise, of which I have an abundance. It has been some time, Odin son. Welcome, my old friend. Welcome to my sanctum. When he pulled that mask, I was like, well, shit.
I love it when they were trying to stop him. It was like it was Odin's son. It was a bunch of others, and they were trying to stop the Black Priest. And they're like, you can't let them form the letters. And at one point, he goes, "Well, wait, we stopped them from how we muted them so they couldn't speak the words, the letters." He's like, "Because I don't speak letters, I speak words." And it's just like,
and I know all of them.
And I know all of them. What words do you know? All of the words. And it's just, you again see how much Stephen Strange has put onto him. And again, this is where you become, again, not only does the character become more interesting when you have him having flaws, it becomes more interesting when you recognize the fact that he is that dude. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't, like, and I think that's one of the problems with earlier Strange stories is they tried to neuter him by understanding that being Sorcerer Supreme is not to be taken lightly.
No.
He is that guy. You know?
He wears that weight.
He wears that weight, which then comes into when you find out that he basically agrees with what Doom is doing and agrees to help.
Well, not even agrees to help. He realizes that Doom's the only one in position to really pull this off.
Right.
And I love the way that because before they make explicit the connection between the two, they do a lot of you get 2 pages of Doom story, 2 pages of Strange. Mm-hmm. And now, the way that I don't know, man, it's for me it was just really well done. Not only this, I love the story. I've made no bones about that. I loved the story that was told in this book. Mm-hmm. I love the way Bendis did it, but the form of the story is really where the art comes through. Because if you look like the seminal issue is 31. Mm-hmm. Like that's where we see the plan go into motion. And even now, even then, knowing what we know, it was hard to get our heads around it. So as you're reading it, you're like, I don't know what's going on here. Like he encounters the Black Swan, and you're in a void priest vacuum. This is a quiet room, and there are no words here. Mm-hmm. Like that's terrifying.
Right.
Like the same thing he bragged about, just similarly, and then you see him win.
Right.
And I'm gonna read some of the caption here. I'm a master of many things. I've spent my life learning the minutiae of mysticism, rituals, lost languages, symbols of power, and spirits, incantations, principalities, and the much darker things. But all of it, the art, the understanding, the control, it relies on precision. There's an order that must be adhered to. In an urgency and desperation, these things defeat order. They bring chaos, and chaos brings the fall. And he loses. Mm-hmm. And you got the first hint of it when you saw at the end of 27, I think, when he's revealed as the leader of the Black Priests, mm-hmm. where they give him the 2 missions. I forget what the other one is. I think it's to stop I forget, honestly.
Yeah.
But the other one is to stop Rabbi Mabal. Mm-hmm. And you're not given the clue then, and you don't really know then. But because of the time travel weirdness, you actually don't know if he knew he was about to meet Doom.
Right.
And they never reconcile. I love that. But you figure out the other party working to stop the end of the universe is Doom, is Rabbi Mabal. Mm-hmm. I've built a religion. It has stoked a grand fire within me, one hot enough and well suited for the task. We're ready for war, Stephen. I have disciples, but I always have room for more. You remember Owen Reese? The Malcolm, yes. He's an oracle for all times. And they kind of set the plan of, we've got to kill gods.
Right. I'm sorry. I just again, we start with this. The book I think everybody should start with is the Doom and Doctor Strange book. And honestly, again, read the Jason Aaron stuff because it's after this. But you end with you can end with a Doctor Doom and Stephen Strange story.
Yeah.
You know?
It makes you appreciate what Hickman's done a lot more.
Two sorcerers going to kill gods. That's really what it is.
And these are gods who, by the way, in the intervening issues, whip the asses of Thor, Hyperion, and all the heavy hitters mm-hmm. that they sent out into the multiverse to save the universe.
Right.
So they thought it was a one-way trip. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Look, man, this book, man, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, and then you get into
it's almost cheating.
Yeah, it is. Same thing with Secret Wars. You know, Secret Wars is the same thing. You get the split between Doom and Strange there, but yeah, I mean, I just think just read it. Like we can't do it justice. We can't do it justice explaining it because there's just so much. again, you can go back and we did a if you're a premium member, go back and listen to our comic book club on that stuff. It's very, very high level. I mean, we get into the weeds, but it's something you have to read for yourself.
Dense.
It is so dense. Like it is next to More Than Meets the Eye is there, and then reading that Hickman stuff is the next one to me. Like we got to read it multiple times, and I got to find some time to actually go back through and read it all again myself, because I had to read it like 2 or 3 times just to make sure I got it all. But yeah. So and that kind of leads us into the all new, all different Marvel. Where you come in there and you have
you've read more of it than I have.
Yeah. Again, what I like about it is it shows you that there's more to. There's a cost for everything. Right? I think they're sticking with that. There's a cost to everything that Stephen Strange does. I like the fact that at one point and I didn't get too far into what they're doing with it, but apparently Wong is out there and he's basically built an army of mystics who are basically taking some of the weight of what Stephen Strange is doing. So when he casts when he's using the dark arts to cast them, these mystics are taking some of that weight because
it's like a support system.
Yeah, because what Stephen Strange was trying to do was he's trying to keep it all in his cellar and put it all down there. But at one point he passes out, and Stephen Strange just goes, "Oh, so you put me in the cellar and all this stuff." But he's like, "That's what happened." What's really going on is Wong has created this army of mystics to help basically be batteries for Stephen Strange, and Strange doesn't know.
It's like a mystical call center,
right? And it to me, it's very fascinating, and I love what they've tried to do with Wong, which is making him more than just being a manservant.
Right. I'm excited for because I know some the soft touch of the treatment they're using on the movies, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah,
too.
Me too. Some other characters that we have, I didn't get too much into it, but I know she's being brought into this Jason Aaron run that I didn't finish yet. Clea, which I look at it more along the lines of I'll be interested to see what they do with that. Again,
there you go. That's the safest way to put it.
Because it's like the beginning of when you meet her is it's those old Strange Tales issues, and it's old, it's dated. I mean, there's like I said, I think there's really good stories you can tell with these characters. It's just that you got to bring them to the 21st century or 22nd century.
Right, like the Night Nurse, like even the way they've redone that for Claire Temple.
Yeah.
You have to kind of mature the storytelling.
Which, by the way, there's another one, Doctor Strange: The Oath, that actually has Claire and Doctor Strange. That's actually I like that story.
I like the Oath.
That was a pretty good one, just because like she was talking about how she didn't want to be a hero or something like that. He's like, yeah, but you're wearing a cape, like you want to be a hero. Like it's a more lighthearted story. Like there's some I like the stories, and Jason Aaron does this too with this stuff where there's some serious shit going on, but they make it more lighthearted. And you're like, and then all of a sudden you realize, because you've been laughing so hard, then you're like, oh wait a minute, this is some serious shit. Like this is really for all of humanity and other dimensions. Because at one point in the Jason Aaron run, you realize like there are other Sorcerer Supremes in other dimensions, and they've all been wiped out. And literally, this Inquisition's happening where there's this person is using tech and he's purging magic from every dimension. And yeah, man, I like the Jason Aaron run. Like Jason Aaron does
I love Jason Aaron, so it has my attention. Which I've had time.
Yeah, I definitely recommend going out there and reading. I read the first 6, and they seem pretty good. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else to really get into. He has several different items that he uses. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we know his powers are magic, but he draws some for some different things. There's one, the Cloak of Levitation, which he gets this at the end of 26 and 27, and the Eye Agamotto. Which what is the eye? The eye basically allows him. I can't remember. No, that's the orb. The orb lets him see other. The orb of Agamotto lets him see other sources of magic, I believe, and that actually had a cameo already in the MCU. It was in Odin's throne room. Mm-hmm. I thought that was interesting. The Book of Vishanti, which is the counterpart to the Darkhold.
Yep.
Which we got the Darkhold on Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. already, so yeah. So that's your direct tie-in to Doctor Strange, where they seem to be going with the entire season, which I think is a great way of doing that. And there's several stories that have him dealing with the Darkhold and reading from the Darkhold or trying to protect the Darkhold from other forces of evil. And Yeah. So, yeah, I think that from a problematic beginning, I think you really start picking it up when you get to the Bendis run, start deconstructing him and making him more flawed. So.
Right, and more interesting.
And way more interesting. Way more interesting. So. That's pretty much all I got, man, for Doctor Strange. You got anything else you want to say about this?
No, we did a lot, and I'm excited to see exactly how this movie turns out. I've heard nothing but good things, but again, like we're comic kids. Like we've grown up. Mm-hmm. You gotta show us.
Right. And
but I think they will.
It's the weird. Like even the Jason Aaron run is weird. You basically at some point you see through the eyes of Doctor Strange. Like at one point he's running through in astral form. He's running through the park naked, being chased after magic sucking slugs. It is a very weird psychedelic book, but it makes sense. It makes sense, and yeah, it's out there, man. It's some out there shit, but there's some good shit in there too. So, yeah. So there's our character corner on Doctor Strange. Our next character corner will be on Teen Titans. It'll be sometime. Part 1 will be sometime next month. I'll talk to Dpalm. We'll figure out when we're gonna do that, and be excited. I know Dpalm is very, very excited for Teen Titans.
I am. It's gonna be a lot.
It's gonna be a lot. This is why we're gonna break it out. We can take chunks. We can do this. Anyway, guys, thank you guys very much for listening. You can find the rest of our Character Corners on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, anywhere you find your favorite podcast. Just search for Character Corner. There's a 5-star review. We'll read it on air. Don't forget to join us on the Facebook, MTR Network. You can find the website, mtrnetwork.net. Dpalm as his own sports show, EM's Decision. Look for that on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. And don't forget, Super Tuesday recaps are always going to be here. And we've been doing a lot with those. Also, the ladies, Shannon the Doctor, would do Supergirl, which, again, Dpalm is a fan.
I'm in on Supergirl. If you're on the fence and you're depending on me, first of all, second of all, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Don't watch the first one. Don't watch the I watched the first season and I feel okay.
Yeah, you don't have to watch the first season. You can just jump right into the second season. You'll be good. So, again, folks, thank you very much for listening. And like I said, as always, leave us comments. Let us know what you think. Till next time, we are out of here. Peace.